Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on the Armstar YouTube channel. Today I have the RadioMaster Zorro. This just came out. I'm very excited to see this. I know a lot of people flying DLGs are using the FrSky X-Lite and X-Lite Pro. I used that for a couple of years, and this is something very similar. I think the sizing is about the same. The really cool thing is the screen is going to be on top. It does support a bunch of stuff that the X-Lite Pro does not. So let's open it up. Oh, actually, before we open it up, let's take a look at the features, and I'll put this on the screen for you guys as well. Physical dimensions, I don't care about that at the moment. Weight, it says it's about 350 grams. I don't think that includes the battery. Operating frequency, 2.4 gigahertz system. Okay, so in terms of internal RF options, I think everyone's kind of familiar with RadioMaster. They do use multi-protocol. And so this one, there's three variants right now. There's the CC2500 multi-protocol, there's the 4-in-1 multi-protocol, and there's the ELRS 2.4 gigahertz system, which is a long-range 2.4 gigahertz system. So my particular one is the 4-in-1 multi-protocol. I don't have any multi-protocol radio, so this is going to be my first one. Basically, multi-protocol means it's not bound to a single brand of receivers. I think you can use this with like Spektrum DSMX. You can use it with D16 from FrSky. There's a couple different ones you can bind it to. And ELRS, that's the one I'm more excited about. This one's not the ELRS version, but basically ELRS, it's a long-range 2.4 gigahertz system where you can go way beyond your line of sight, even with like a 4-meter F5J model. The only downside with ELRS that I know of at the moment is it only supports 4 channels of PWM for our gliders, so it's not really useful yet. But I've heard they're working on 6 to 8 channel receivers, so hopefully that's going to be something that will come into fruition pretty soon. Okay, let's take a look. Supported protocols, module dependent. Okay, so there is a module in the back of the radio, RF power. I'm going to link all of these in the box below so you guys can read all the specs later. That's most of the stuff I'm interested in. Okay, control distance over 2 kilometers at 20 dBm. That's obviously going to be in ideal situations, and if it was ELRS, it's going to be further than that. Let's see. Maximum control is 16 channels, receiver dependent. Display, it's a larger display than the X-Lite Pro from FrSky, but I think the pixel density is the same. Battery, it uses two 18350s. It's not included. Charging, built-in USB-C charging. Okay, so it can run both OpenTX and EdgeTX compatible. So I think I'm going to be running mine in OpenTX because there's a lot of different templates that are already available for F3K and F5J for OpenTX. I don't think they're available for EdgeTX yet. I could be wrong though. Next is gimbal, Hall effect, and module bay is going to be nano-sized. All right, so let's open this up. Let's take a look. I love to open up new boxes. Right, so let's open it up. Okay, there's not a lot in the box. It has a quick start manual. I don't know if anyone actually reads this. Comes in a little clear vacuum form kind of packaging. There's not a lot in here. There's the radio, of course. There's a USB set of cables, and there is a screen protector. That's about it. All right, so let's take a quick look at the radio first. General first impressions. It's solidly built. This is $100, so I don't know what I was expecting, but I am very, very pleasantly surprised. I'm gonna actually grab my X-Lite Pro. I have been flying FrSky for a very long time, quite a few years, and specifically I've flown the X-Lite and the X-Lite Pro for quite a long time as well. I'm currently flying the X20 with Ethos, the tandem systems from FrSky, but I'm very happy with the X-Lite Pro, and I'll do a lot of comparison maybe in this video against the two, because a lot of DLG guys like me are probably very familiar with this already. So this will give you something to compare it against. Now keep in mind, this I think is about $200, something like that, and this is roughly $100. I don't know if that's like the regular price or if it's like a pre-order price, but it's about $100. Now, full disclaimer, I did not pay for this unit. This was sent by RadioMaster, but they don't have any control over my video, what I say. This is my first unboxing. They probably didn't expect anything professionally done anyway. So this is amateur hour. I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you do like it, hit like, hit subscribe. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the two radios. So first off, the RadioMaster, in terms of height, it's about the same. I don't know if you guys can see it. The X-Lite will be a little bit taller in this case because I have the extended battery caps. But if I had the regular battery caps, it's about the same height. The main difference, of course, is there is a bigger screen on this compared to the X-Lite Pro. It's the same resolution, but it's bigger, so it'll be easier to see. Now, first impressions, let's take a look at how well it's constructed, at least the case. There's like zero flex in this at all. I mean, I don't want to snap off the screen or anything, but there's very, very, very little flex in the FrSky X-Lite Pro. Like, you gotta twist it pretty hard to kind of feel anything. But I'm twisting pretty hard on the Zorro and there's no play in it. I was expecting it to feel a bit more like a toy because of the price, obviously, but I'm very pleasantly surprised. All right, so next, let's take a look at the port selection. There's a flap over here on top. There's a USB-C, I guess that's for charging. There's SD card. There is a headphone jack. I don't know what the last one is. It's a 3.5mm port. I'm not sure what it is. There's no label on it. I'll have to take a look later. Obviously, I'm not very well prepared here. There's another flap on the bottom. I think this one's for the battery because over here you can put an external battery here with the straps in case you run out of juice. So that kind of extends the life. Whereas on the X-Lite Pro, they basically put on extended covers where you can fit in the bigger batteries. This one only runs with the 18350. Now, I wish it came with the 500s or the 650s instead of the 350s, but there's no way for you to extend that natively except for this external module. Now, I don't know how long the 18350 is going to last for a DLG situation, but we're on the field for the entire day and we're doing a lot of flying, so hopefully it lasts long enough, and even if not, maybe it charges quick enough. So we'll see. Not going to be here in the first initial impression and unboxing. In terms of the last port I see is probably the Nano module bay over here, so you can put on like TBS tracer, etc. Kind of like what we have here on the X-Lite Pro. Are there any other ports? I don't think so. Well, speaking of ports, these aren't really ports, but these are attachment points, and there's two on each side. I think these two on the top are also attachment points, but I don't really see. Oh, actually, yeah, I think they are, but it's just a smaller one, maybe. Yeah, I think the thread is smaller on this one. I'll measure it later. So for glider guys like me, we can put on our wind indicator, which is basically like this little stick with a little thread on top, so we can see the infill, the wind, kind of how the air is blowing, so we can, you know, read thermals and stuff. So that's something we can probably make an attachment to screw right on without gluing anything on the radio. And I guess if you're flying FPV or any other types of models, maybe you have some other attachments you want to put in. That's pretty darn cool. I think this is the first one I've seen that has this. Next, let's take a look at the gimbals. Now, the X-Lite Pro gimbals are pretty decent. They're not great. I feel they're a little bit small and short, but they're pretty decent. They're metal. There's, you know, not a lot of flex at the ends of the travel, not a whole ton, a little bit. So let's take a look at the Zorro from RadioMaster. Obviously these are Hall sensor, but this one is the plastic gimbal. There's a little bit more play at the ends of the travel, as you can expect. Not play, but flex, sorry. So if you're pushing on a little harder, you will see a little bit of flex there, but I think that's to be expected with a plastic gimbal. Now in terms of feel, I'm just kind of moving it around a little bit and trying to feel what the center points feel like and end points. It feels pretty decent. It's not quite as crisp as the X-Lite, probably because one is metal and one is plastic, but it feels good. Actually, if you take a look at it, The gimbal size on the Zorro is quite a bit bigger than on the X-Lite, so it's close. It's not quite full size yet, but it is much closer. Let me compare it against my X20, which is my current radio. I don't know if you guys can see the gimbal size. It's much closer to the X20 than to the X-Lite. I know this is a RadioMaster video, but I really like the FrSky X20. Anyway, let's go back onto the next part. Where were we at? Gimbals. Let's take a look at all the rest of the hardware. So it's going to have the two position switches on the bottom shoulder. 3 position, just like the X-Lite Pro. Nice and tight switches. There's the slider on the top, just like the X-Lite Pro. Now these feel a lot looser than the ones on the X-Lite Pro. The X-Lite Pro sliders feel tighter, which is good for us glider guys, because we want to be able to accurately control, you know, like throttle. We control throttle with our slider for our powered models, as well as camber and things like that. So I do feel this is a little bit loose. I don't know if there's a way to tighten it. And also there's no center indent, just like the X-Lite Pro. Center indent for RadioMaster or FrSky, if you guys are listening, we like the center indent for gliders. Okay, so it's a little bit loose. Okay, let's take a look at these buttons. The buttons feel a lot more prominent than on the X-Lite Pro. X-Lite Pro, if you have a little bit bigger fingers, you might not really feel that. And I know that some people actually modify and put a regular button that sits proud. But let's see. On the Zorro, it already sits proud, and we'll get some close-up shots of this later. But it already sits proud, and I think it definitely feels better. It's a more positive feel when you're grabbing your plane coming in from a quick turnaround. You press it, you can definitely feel whether you pressed it or not. From the photos, I would have thought that the bottom 2-position toggle might kind of interfere with you pressing this. But if you look at my here, yeah, like it doesn't interfere at all. Now, if you have fatter fingers, I don't know if it'll interfere or not, but at least for me, it doesn't. The one thing that the Zorro has and the X-Lite Pro does not have are these back buttons. So for what I would use it for is I would probably map these into my F3K timer apps and use that, maybe one for like window time and one for my current flight time. If you don't fly gliders, you probably have no idea what that means, but that's okay. There's a lot of functions you can use those buttons for. Let's take a look. The rest of the hardware, okay, trim. Trim is always going to be a big thing with the X-Lite Pros because there's just this little keypad thing over here, and you have to press shift to be able to set up the trim on the other gimbal. Whereas on the Zorro, there are full trim buttons for both gimbals. And FrSky, unlike the X20, which this is like one of the few complaints I have on this radio, but their trim buttons are so loose. It's like you can shake it and you can hear it rattle. Whereas on this one, it feels tight. Okay, it feels tight. Now, I'm not trying to make a dig at the X20. As I said, I really like this radio. I've used it for a few months now. But that's like the one bad quality part on that radio, and it's not an issue on the Zorro. Let's just put it that way. Another thing is they do have, there's very few buttons on the X-Lite Pro. It looks very minimalistic. The great thing is there's fewer things that can go wrong with it, right? There are a lot more buttons on the Zorro. So if you're familiar with RadioMaster, this is my first RadioMaster radio, at least my own radio. So I'm not really familiar with navigating with all of these buttons yet, but I'm sure it's going to be easier than just having 1 or 2 buttons. There's the model button. There is system, return, page forward, page back. There is telemetry, and there is that scroll wheel right here. And this scroll wheel reminds me of my JR radios. I just have all my radios, some of my radios over here on the side. And see, my JR has this little scroll wheel as well. Feels really good on the JR. I would say it's slightly not as crisp as the JR one. There's a little bit of play. The JR one is really crispy, crisp. But this one is not bad, especially for the price point. The clicks are very positive. And it rolls nice. It rolls smoothly. Yeah, I can just kind of feel a little bit of play. Actually, I can feel a bit of play on my JR as well. I'll do a close-up shot on this so you guys can see. So this is the amount of play we have on the scroller on the RadioMaster Zorro, and this is the play we have on the JR XG14. So actually, it's very comparable to my JR, which I think has a really good scroll button. Of course, with the X-Lite Pro, there's no scroll, so you kind of have to go like down, 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 up, 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 and your thumbs kind of give up after a while. Whereas with the scroll wheel, I quite prefer this. And also these dials on the X20, I quite like it as well. All right, let's see what else there is. I have a little cheat sheet over here. Let's talk about battery next. Guys, this is my first unboxing. Go easy on me, okay? Battery. So on the X-Lite Pro, they have the end caps. You slide the 18500 or whatever battery goes inside. These, you slide it out. Oh, actually, there are batteries inside. And you can tell these batteries are tiny, 18350s. I don't know who designed that part. We need bigger batteries. Maybe on a V2 or something, I don't know. Comes off easily. Putting it on. Doesn't slide in quite as easily. Kind of got to snap it back. But once it's on, it's nice and tight. And it's on both sides. So these batteries, I guess, if you run out of juice, you can easily replace it. Takes about 30 seconds, I guess. And of course, I haven't used it yet, so I don't know how long the battery will last, but hopefully it lasts for an entire day for us at the contest field or at the glider field, and we don't have to charge. But I guess if we do have to charge, it's easy enough to swap out. Now, there is battery in here, so let's just take a quick look. It does turn on. I mean, it would be a problem if it doesn't turn on. And that sound is good. Let me turn the back off and put the mic right by the speaker. Oops, sorry, I didn't turn it on.
Welcome to HTX. Switch warning.
It sounds nice and deep. It's like a little bit more fuller kind of voice.
Thermal. Have fun and just fly.
I don't know, it just feels, there's not much depth to the sound on the X-Lite, but on this one, it does sound better. Let's try to listen to that one more time. Maybe this doesn't matter to you guys. It doesn't really matter to me, but I just found that interesting.
Welcome to HTX.
Yeah, it just sounds better. It just sounds higher quality, I guess. It sounds higher quality. It's $100 radio, but it sounds good. Let's see, where's the return button? Okay, return. I think this one's Edge TX, so it comes pre-flashed with Edge TX. Let's take a look at which Edge TX it is. Where do I look for that? There we go. 2.6.0. I don't know what the current newest version is. Again, I didn't do my homework. I'm sorry, guys. But this one is 2.6.0. That's flashed in here. Okay, let's return. Let's go back. And then let's take a look at everything. Yeah, you know, the scroll wheel, I'm kind of obsessed with the scroll wheel. I really like scroll wheels. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't skip anything. Every click moves something. That's good. It feels nice. It feels nice in the radio. Page. Yeah, I like it. Okay, let's return. Let's get out of there. Let's turn off the radio for a second. I don't know if I'm missing anything. Let's take a look. Price, I think we talked about price. This is about 200 bucks. This is about $100. Again, I don't know if that's regular retail or pre-order. Doesn't matter, even if it's just like a pre-order price and it's like 130 or 140, I think it's still a killer deal. Now, I'm not saying RadioMaster make your price higher, but I just think that for this price, I don't understand how they made it for this price. I'm blown away. Protocols. Oh, okay. Protocols. Let's talk about protocols. We touched on it a little bit earlier. So mine is the 4-in-1 multi-module. So I can run like DSMX. I can run this on D8, D16, like my other non-Archer or non-Axis FrSky receivers. So I'm going to be running this on my Spektrum AR410 receivers, as well as my FrSky GRX6 receivers. I'm going to run it. I'm going to fly it for a while and see how it does. But I don't expect any issues with it. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully I don't lose a glider. That's going to be an expensive experiment. But as I mentioned earlier, the one I'm very excited about is the one with the built-in ELRS. So hopefully that's available with like regular receivers, maybe some with Varios built in. I'm talking to RadioMaster to try to get some with Varios built in and ELRS. I don't know when they'll be out ready, but it seems that they are interested. So for glider guys like us with F3K, F5J, and with ELRS, as I said, like with F5J, you can fly over 1 kilometer away with your 4-meter carbon glider, and you're never going to have to worry about range or anything else. And I think that's going to be a game changer once ELRS really makes its way into our RC sailing as sailplane community. Of course, TBS Tracer has already been used quite successfully by a number of F5J pilots, but ELRS, if it's completely built in, that'll be pretty sweet. And my last note is any additional items. I don't think so. I think we covered, antenna. We didn't talk about the antenna yet. Okay, yeah. It comes up like this. Whereas the X-Lite Pro has the built-in internal antennas, and then you can put on the external. This one, I think this is a single antenna out the top. This kind of reminds me of my Futaba 16iZ or whatever it's called. Yeah, I mean, it feels relatively solid. Like, I wouldn't twist it on purpose or anything, but I think it should last a while. It does take a little force to kind of get it to unclip. Now I'm going to have to experiment a bit to see if there's actually any difference in performance of having it up like this versus just kind of clipped down. If it works the same clip down, then that'll probably be a lot safer. There is this little thing that fell out earlier. I think you can put in like another internal module or something, or maybe one of the other options. You might need another antenna there. I don't know. At least not on mine. It's not something I need on this one. What else is there to talk about? Like, not much. The only thing is, like, I'm just really happy with what this is like. I'm very excited to give this a shot and fly it. This price is just crazy. I was not expecting something of this quality. RadioMaster, Owen, you guys really knocked it out of the park. I'm gonna go in, do that little rubber band thing I do with all my radios for the gimbal. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll link it wherever that goes. But it's only useful for DOG guys like us. And if you're watching this and you don't fly DOGs or you don't fly gliders, at least I hope at least you got a little bit out of it, seeing some comparisons against a known variable like the X-Lite Pro, which is really, really good. I really like OpenTX. I really like this radio. The ecosystem with FrSky is unbelievably good. But this becomes a really nice alternative. And I think for a lot of glider guys, I really like having that screen on top as well. For a lot of glider guys, I think you would be very happy with this. I'll give it a shot. I'll fly with it a little bit when the weather works. And maybe I'll come back in with another video later on. But in the meantime, again, if you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, and thanks. See ya.